It's time for the Money Puzzle Podcast. With good conversations and realistic solutions to the money puzzles we all face every day. I'm your host, financial advisor, chartered financial consultant, and president of Edgen Insurance and Financial, Robert Edgen. Now let's get this show started. Hello and welcome to the Money Puzzle Podcast. I am Robert Edgen, and I'll be your guide for the ride for the next few minutes. Each week, we look at a different piece of the money puzzle and practical ways to solve it so you can have the financial confidence you deserve and the future that you dream of. This is episode number 7, and we are sticking with the budgeting theme, but taking a little break from the why-tos and the how-tos of budgeting to talk about inexpensive little daily habits that are actually costing us a lot of money over time. Like, I'm talking about massive amounts. You'll be surprised when I read you these numbers. You might even call me a liar, but I promise I would never lie to you. But you might find out that you're actually lying to yourself a little bit about some of your little daily habits. So I'm looking forward to getting into that conversation. We've got a lot to get through. But before we do, I do a lot of reading and research, and I come across different financial news headlines that catch my eye. So let's take a minute and look at some news. This week's news comes to us from Yahoo Finance as a follow-up to the Kentucky Derby, which just happened a few weeks ago. The headline reads, "Just the Feces, Kentucky Derby winner poop on sale for $200. Are you interested in a $200 jar of poop from 1997 Kentucky Derby winner Silver Charm? If so, the jars by Kentucky for Kentucky went on sale May 1st. So the Kentucky Derby was recently held, and I have to admire the timing for this marketing for some Derby poo. The poop is actually from a retired racehorse. It's been hand-picked and perfectly preserved in resin by a local artist, and the sales are going for a good cause. Part of the money goes to a retirement farm for thoroughbreds. Now, I do applaud their creativity, but $200 seems like a crap ton of money for a little bit of crap. So I don't know. I'm not much into racehorsing, so I personally wouldn't pay $200 for a pile of preserved horse poop, even if it was from a thoroughbred or a Kentucky Derby winner, but that's just me. The poop is in limited supply, which is also, that's a great part of marketing is, limit the supply. It'll drive up the price. Although I would imagine that if they wanted to make more, they really just need to feed that horse a little more oats. So if you want to get yours, now's the time to do it before it's all gone. I'm actually more impressed by this story because it shows us how many ways there are and how creative you can get in your efforts to make some extra money. How much did it cost this guy to walk around and pick up horse poop? Probably nothing. He had to buy a little bit of resin and some jars, but that's it. He doesn't even have to pay for advertising. Webcasts and internet and on all sorts of social media is doing all of his marketing for him. So kudos to you, Mr. Poop Seller. I applaud your efforts. You can find the full story and the link to that in the show notes from today if you want to get the link to buy your Kentucky Derby poop. All right, that's it for the news. Let's get into today's hot topic. So we've been talking over the past few weeks about budgets and money leaks, and then as I'm preparing for this week's show, I'm listening to another podcast, which I listened to quite a few, and I came across an interview by David Bach. Now, David Bach is the author of The Automatic Millionaire, Smart Couples Finish Rich, and about 7 other best-selling financial books. And right now, he's doing a tour for his newest book, The Latte Factor. And coincidentally, that's what I wanted to talk about today. Things like lattes and these other little seemingly innocent, inexpensive habits that we have that add up to a bunch of money. Now, I don't want to ruin the end of the book here, so this is your official spoiler alert. Stop listening for about 30 seconds if you don't want to hear the end of the book. But The Latte Factor is a story about a woman who basically can't get ahead financially because of her daily latte habit. And here's the spoiler: if she redirects that money into herself and her future instead of her lattes, voila, she can finally get ahead. So the idea is simple, and it fits in perfectly well with what we've been talking about over the past few weeks and what we're going to finish up with next week. And that is, more than anything, it's the little things that make these big long-term results in our life, or at least in our financial lives. Let's be honest, most of us will never get rich from something outside of our own doing. Most of us won't win the lottery. Most of us won't have some wealthy uncle that we didn't know about leave us millions of dollars. We won't have anything but what we plan, save, and invest in and for ourselves in order to be waiting for us, or have that waiting for us in the future, which means that our future wealth is completely in our own control. Some people think it's a little bit depressing. I actually like that, knowing that I control it. Now, don't get me wrong. If I do have some crazy long lost uncle that I don't know and he wants to leave me $1 million or so, I'm not going to turn it down, but that's just not the reality for most of us. But here's the good news. Although it's not likely that we're going to have some big windfall of cash in our lives, it's also not necessary to have a big windfall of cash in order to have the future that you dream of. And even better, you probably don't even have to make any big sacrifices to get the future that you dream of either. Little sacrifices, sure, but big sacrifices, not so much. In the long term marathon of planning and preparing for the future, it really is these little things that add up to make big differences. Now, I hear some popular financial gurus out there saying things like, you've got to sell your car and you should pay cash for absolutely everything. And if you have any loans at all, you're stupid. A car loan, stupid on steroids. Well, do loans and debts and required payments slow things down? Yes, absolutely. Do you sometimes have to live like no one else today so you can live like no one else tomorrow? Maybe. But do you have to live like a pauper and completely neglect today to have the future that you dream of, or a good life in the future? I don't think so. It's more about being balanced. It's about making small adjustments today and letting those little things compound over time. It's about looking at your daily habits and doing what you want more, or deciding what you want more, a little gratification today or a lot of gratification in the future. So the latte factor fits in great for today's conversation, and it's a great place to start. Which of your little daily or weekly habits are the most expensive, and really how expensive are they? So let's look at a few, and starting with a latte, since that's what the book was about, or cappuccinos or double soy almond milk, super chai milk teas, or whatever the heck it is that you drink. I'm not sure if that last one really is a drink. I go with the simple, easy cappuccino or latte, but hey, that's just me. Now, in case you're the person who's listening and saying, haha, I don't even drink any of that. I haven't ever had a latte. I just drink my Red Bulls. Well, add Red Bull to the list of lattes, because it's the same thing. It's any of those little drinks that we're stopping out and buying on a daily basis on our way into work or on our way home from work. Now, in the latte factor, David tells the story about this woman who stops at her favorite coffee shop and grabs a $5 latte and a muffin 6 days a week. I think that's a little unrealistic, maybe a little excessive, but I do see people floating around my own office drinking lattes, 3 to 4 times a week consistently. It's just easy to hit that drive-through on your way into work. And let's be honest, having someone make you a special drink that you love and makes you happy, brings you joy. A lot of people, especially people who are maybe not where they want to be financially, they look at these small little purchases as rewards or pleasures that they deserve. And since they don't cost very much, they can easily afford it. They can't afford to take a family vacation other than, maybe going up and camping in the mountains for a week or going to some local amusement parks, which is all awesome stuff. But it's not I took my kids on this, vacation of a lifetime. I took them on this cruise. I took them on this something that's going to create these amazing memories. It's not those kind of experiences because they can't afford those. But what can they afford? This little latte. Now, a lot of people inadvertently replace their ability to do bigger, more pleasurable things because of their smaller daily pleasures that are really more of a habit at this point than anything else. So 4 lattes a week, what I see people roaming around with in my office, it doesn't seem out of the question for most people today. And Bach talks about, $5 for a latte, which, I think mine are about $4.20. But if you round it up and tip your barista because you're a good person, $5 seems like a legitimate amount. So $5 a latte 4 times a week. That's $20 a week, 52 weeks a year on lattes. That's $1,040 a year if you add it all up. Now, could you take your family on a vacation of a lifetime or family cruise for $1,040? No, not that I'm aware of. But if you know of a way to do that, let me know. I'll sign up for that cruise. But what it does over the long term is pretty amazing if you redirect some of that money. And this is where the magic of compounding comes in. And you can also use another little financial trick that we're going to talk about in a few weeks called dollar cost averaging too. Basically, dollar cost averaging happens when you invest a certain dollar amount at regular times in order to average out the cost of the investment. So we'll get into that in a few episodes. But the point is this: if every time you pulled up to the Starbucks line, you instead just went into your phone and transferred that money into an investment account that averaged 7%, then in 10 years, you've got $14,360. Not that big of a deal. It's, now you can take that family vacation of a lifetime. But here's where the magic of compounding starts to kick in. In 20 years, you don't just have double that amount. You've actually got $42,635. And in 30 years, you've got $98,239. Not bad when you compound it over time. So you would have actually spent about $31,200 in lattes over 30 years. So it becomes a personal question. What is more important to you? Drinking $31,000 worth of lattes or having an extra $98,000 in your account for the future? Now, that's a personal decision. And if lattes were the only expensive daily habit you had, that would be one thing. But for most of us, that's not even our most expensive daily habit. How about going out to lunch? Some of us do that 5 days a week while we're at work because, maybe it's too hard to bring a lunch. Well, if you keep it cheap and you have an inexpensive lunch, you're probably spending $7.50 a day. And if you take 2 weeks of vacation per year, that means you're buying lunch 50 weeks per year. But let's assume that every once in a while you miss work or you've got a work function during lunchtime. So you end up going out to lunch 48 weeks per year. That's 240 lunches, which adds up to $1,800 a year in lunches. Now, what if you cut down your meals from, let's say, instead of 5, that you did it to about 2 meals per week or 3 meals per week? Well, for starters, your lunch spending would go down to $720 per year, which means you could put another $1,100 a year into your latte money fund. And then 30 years later, instead of having $98,000 in your retirement account or your wealth account, you've got $202,146. And that's still not all of our daily habits. How about your monthly membership to the car wash? Or how about stopping for a beer on the way home from work a couple of days a week? It's just $6 for a beer. $6 doesn't make that big of a deal or that much of a difference. Maybe not today, but when it's compounded and done repeatedly over a long period of time, yeah, it does. How about a pack of smokes? Now, I don't smoke, and I'm not sure how much they've cost, but I believe there's somewhere around $6 a pack these days. So if you've got a pack-a-day habit, that's $2,190 a year in purchases. And it doesn't just add up to the $65,700 in total spent for smokes over 30 years. If redirected, that daily habit would put another $207,000 into your retirement account or wealth account. So if you add that in with your lattes and your lunches, you're up to $409,000 of extra money set aside for your future. Lattes, lunches, stopping for a beer or a pack of smoke, none of it seems like a big deal at the time because it's only $5 or $6, and damn it, I deserve it. Because the numbers are small, we think that they make a small difference in our future. But just like small hinges move big doors, small dollars make for big wealth over time. Compounding is important. We've talked about that. But mindset and the way that you look at these different pieces of your money puzzle and how they work together, that's really what is the most important and where the magic happens. So my challenge to you over the course of the next week is this. What daily habits do you have that add up to $100 a month or $200 a month? Can you make small sacrifices today for big rewards tomorrow by skinnying down some of these purchases? A little from this habit and a little from that one to add up to $200 per month. Now, personally, I'm not giving up my lattes altogether. It just so happens I stopped for a latte while I was on my way in to film this episode. And when I was writing and researching for this episode, I was actually doing it while I was out to lunch and rewarding myself, for a day of hard work. It's really about being more balanced. Now, if you'd like to see what a little here and a little there can do for your future, I've actually got some really great calculators on the Office website. Just go to robertedgen.com, click on resources and then calculators, and then choose the savings accumulation calculator. You can check out some of your own numbers for yourself. And I would love to hear about some of your most expensive daily habits and how you're planning on redirecting that money. You can email me at robert@yourmoneypuzzle.com. You can also find the links to our social media websites in the and connections in the show notes. Now, that just about does it for today. But if you do have questions about your own money puzzle, you can send those to us at questions@yourmoneypuzzle.com. Also, get connected with Facebook, and please do me a favor and share the podcast with someone if you think it could bring some value to their lives, or give us a review on whatever you're choosing to listen to the podcast on. You can also give us a thumbs up on YouTube. I would appreciate that as well. I hope you will join me next week, but until then, be safe, have a little bit of fun, and go out and do something to improve your money puzzle, and I'll see you next week.
Registered representative of and securities offered through Securities Management and Research, Inc., SM&R. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through BFC Planning, Inc. Edgen Insurance and Financial Services, Johnson Financial Services, SM&R, American National Family of Companies, and BFC Planning are independent entities. There are risks involved with investing which may include market fluctuation and possible loss of principal value. Particular investments may not be suitable for certain situations. Carefully consider the risks and possible consequences involved prior to making an investment decision. Our firm does not provide legal or tax advice. Be sure to consult with your own legal and tax advisors before taking any action that may have tax implications.